Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 13-year-old nephew came to live with me in December. This is a temporary, but we're not sure how long he'll be here arrangement. My husband and I will keep him for as long as it takes. But I'll be honest, I could see him staying for years. The reason he's here is because he's full of anger about his dad, who's my older brother, and got married 18 months ago, and my nephew has felt like his dad's stepkids get more of his time, attention, and love than him, and it has turned into hatred for his stepsiblings, 5 and 6, and in December, he unleashed all that anger on the kids and yelled at them. He told them he hated them. He wished they'd die so he could have his dad back, and any number of things. My brother had taken his focus off his son a lot after remarrying, and was shocked by the outburst, and calming my nephew down took hours, because he yelled at his dad when he was finished yelling at the kids. My sister-in-law attempted to step in, but my nephew yelled at her, and then went back to yelling at his dad. It was the first time my brother realized his son was angry. I hadn't seen them since my brother's wedding, but it was a big change. My nephew had mixed emotions on the day of the wedding, and he talked about it, but he wasn't angry. But in the months that followed, that anger became a concern, and my brother didn't see it. After talking to my nephew when he was calmer, he realized more outbursts were going to happen, which led him to reaching out and asking me if my husband and I could let my nephew stay for a while. He was honest that he didn't know how long, but he didn't want to send his stepkids packing, and didn't want my nephew to feel like this was the end of the marriage and it would be back to just the two of them, so he didn't want to move out with him. I told him assuming he arranged for therapy and everything else, that was fine. My brother sends a weekly amount to cover expenses for my nephew. My brother set up a therapist for him where I live. We're a couple of hours from each other, and my nephew is doing school virtually right now. My brother drives out to see him once a week and joins him for therapy some weeks. But he's not happy with what the therapist is saying. He confronted me on it and was trying to blame me for the choice of therapist and because therapy wasn't a quick fix. He told me what good is it doing if he's here and with the therapist and we're not helping. He asked what sort of therapist I was bringing him to. Those were the kinds of comments. I reminded him he chose the therapist and I was helping him, so he needed to stop blaming me. My brother told me there wasn't another option, as much as others might disagree, which makes me think the therapist suggested something he disagreed with. But my brother left angry, and he called me a couple of days later and told me I don't need to turn on him when he doesn't have a ducking clue what to do, and he's still coming to terms with the fact that his son hates him and hates innocent kids who did nothing wrong. Am I the a-hole? OP is definitely not the a-hole here. It sounds like OP has stepped up in a big way to help her nephew, offering a safe space and stability during a really tough time in his life. It's not OP's fault that the therapist, whom her brother picked, isn't delivering the quick fix he seems to want. Therapy takes time, especially when a child is dealing with feelings of neglect, jealousy, and loss. OP's brother needs to understand that, no matter how frustrating it might be for him. OP is doing more than her share to support both her nephew and her brother, and she has clearly established boundaries. It's not OP's responsibility to solve her brother's parenting challenges, but it is admirable that OP is willing to help. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. A zillion bucks says that brother was hoping that the therapist would just tell the kid to basically suck it up and deal, and that would be that. Instead, stuff probably got real, and rather than accepting responsibility for his part in things, it's easier to blame everyone else. So, he remarried, shows more love to his stepkids, doesn't see the resentment in his own child. The child blows up, and he sends him away. Wow, your brother is a bit of a dick. Oh my goodness. When a neglectful parent says they don't like what the therapist is saying, that always translates to they aren't excusing my crappy actions and are pointing out I'm a bad parent. Not the a-hole OP. Thank you for being there for your nephew. God knows that poor kid needs someone in his corner. Also, good on you for not coddling your brother. I, 25 female, an accidental baby, was 7 when my mom, 52 female, married a man, now 49 male. They then had 2 daughters, now 16 and 10. We're pretty well off when I was young. But 2 months before my high school graduation, Mom said that stepdad left us and also left a huge debt due to gambling. He also took our family savings and even got my college fund. Mom had to give up many things so that she could pay some of the debt, as threats were thrown to my sisters. I was 16 then and decided to postpone going to college to work and help our family out. 2 years after, I was offered a scholarship at a rural state uni, so I grabbed it to get a degree. I graduated with a high GPA, despite having to juggle my time with my studying while working part-time to live, because I don't want to be an additional burden to my mom. I resigned and took a break at work last year as I was burned out, unhealthy, and just wanted to rest. I trusted my savings to my mom, told her to use it for emergencies, and went home to my relatives' home, 12-hour drive, to stay with them as I'm uncomfortable in our house. Last week, my mom called me crying, told me that stepdad appeared last May and begged for forgiveness. They said they forgave him because he's still our father, and kept it a secret from me because they know I'll be mad. Duh. What sane person is going to forgive someone who just left his family buried in debt and appear after 8 years as if he did nothing wrong? Then she said that stepdad left again last month. Creditors crashing in again, saying he got dead, and since there's no divorce here, the wife has to pay for it. She also admitted that she gave all of my savings to him because he said he'll use it for the business. But then he left. I was livid. I can't believe that the money I saved up for my sister's college fund and my settlement at another place is gone. I yelled at my mom through the phone, told her how could she do this and how much of a fool she is, and what kind of a mother is she for letting an a-hole throw us in the dirt again. Years of pent-up emotions burst out of me, and told her was ruining my life not enough that they have to also destroy my sister's lives by taking away their chance to have a better life just because she's a lovesick fool. I hung up. I'm still not talking to my mom, and my sister told me that mom said I was rude for saying what I said, and my sis kind of agreed with it, but that she also needed the wake-up call. I love them, but I don't know what I can do to fix this with zero money. People are threatening to sue us if we won't be able to pay the money instantly. There were no opportunities, and my work contract starts in December, but we have no time already. I'm terrified, exhausted, and in dire need of money. I want to cry, and I needed help because I want to tap out already. I still want to berate my mom because she's also at fault here. So am I the a-hole? This seems completely implausible. What? You just showed up with a bag of money, enough to pay for a college education, then left it and hadn't talked to any of these people since May? No bank accounts? No trail of evidence. But you're worried calling your mom a fool instead of going to the police for fraud and theft makes you an a-hole? Absolutely not the a-hole. Your mom could have gotten a divorce to begin with and definitely recovered some of that money, forced at least half of the debt into being solely in his name. Given the circumstances, a judge probably would have saddled him with all of the gambling debt, and you'd be done with this. But she didn't. She cares more about being with this guy than about her and her family's financial health. Don't trust her with any more money. Not the a-hole, but don't step in to save your mom. Work on your life and just go low contact with them. Tell your sisters straight up how much money you saved for their college that your mom allowed their dad to steal, down to each dollar for each account. Don't give your sisters any money for college. Go live your life. Have kids if you want, instead of trying to raise your mom's kids. And let your mom take responsibility for her actions. Save yourself. Do be there for your sisters emotionally. I, 45 male, have a 13-year-old daughter who I share custody of with my ex-wife. Last year, we had a wedding to go to. My ex-wife took her dress shopping, and when my daughter came to my house, she tried it on. It wasn't very flattering on her, and I told her this in the kindest way possible. I didn't body shame her or call her fat. I simply pointed out that there were certain types of clothing that are not meant for everyone to wear. I told her that she should save the dress for another event in the future, when it might flatter her better. I also told her the importance of eating right and exercising. My daughter agreed. And while she was with me, she began journaling her food, eating more greens, and began to go for runs around the neighborhood. She seemed very proud of her progress. Unfortunately, inevitably, every time she would go back to her mother's house, she would fall back into her bad habits and completely undo any progress we had made. Cut to this year, and between quarantine and her mother's complete lack of guidance when it comes to healthy habits, my daughter has gained quite a bit of weight. I took her and two of her friends to a vacation home on the beach. After the trip, my daughter admitted to me that she felt very self-conscious about her body compared to her friends. Both of her friends are athletes and extremely thin. I explained to her that the reason why her friends are so slim is because they exercise every day and watch what they eat so they can stay in shape for their respective sports teams. I've tried many times getting my daughter involved in sports, as I think it's very important for both physical and mental health. But she always says she's too clumsy for sports, though I've pointed out to her that sports such as track or swimming don't involve much coordination. She still resists. Yesterday, my ex-wife calls me, talking to me very rude and short, though that's not unusual of her. She told me that our daughter has an eating disorder, that it's my fault, and I need to pay for her treatment. I responded to her that if this eating disorder is anyone's fault, it's hers, for not teaching her proper dietary habits, which I tried to do, and not encouraging her to stick to her food journaling and exercise. If she had just stuck with it, I'm sure by now she'd have a body she is comfortable in and proud of because she worked for it. Instead, she's taking a page out of her mother's book and playing the victim to avoid hard work. I told my ex-wife that I would be more than happy to pay for half of the treatment she desperately needs, but my ex-wife is insisting I pay for all of it. She claims she doesn't have the money for it, even though I send her child support every month, even though she doesn't have full custody, and she still has money to have ridiculous hair and nails. Am I the a-hole for thinking that, as parents, therapy is something we should split 50-50? You're the a-hole. You did give her an eating disorder. The entire first chunk of essay here is literally how you shamed your daughter. You did. She's ducking 13, and you watched her diet and journal. You crying about paying for therapy and not putting your daughter's needs first is really telling. Who gives a duck who pays? You're both her ducking parents. Does the wife suck for not wanting to split? Yes, but you're a huge a-hole for thinking child support means you don't owe your daughter anything else. You're the a-hole, not because of only wanting to pay half, but because of how you have spoken to your daughter and how you've made her feel. Your daughter doesn't need your bluntness, as you have replied to another comment. She needs her dad not casting judgment and making her feel any more awkward than she already would at 13 years old. She doesn't need to be thin and athletic to have a body to be proud of. Her body, regardless of size, shape, or color, powers her. It engages her brain. It makes her bright. Teach her to be proud of her body, of her personality, and how much of a strong woman she's become. Stop being concerned about how she looks and further feeding her insecurities. But yes, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Just from this post, I absolutely believe you have an unhealthy obsession with your child's weight. She's 13. It's absolutely normal for girls to have chubby faces when puberty kicks in. I believe how your wife can believe you gave her an eating disorder, or at least made it worse. Stop talking about weight with your kid, now. And yes, pay for the damn therapist. Whether or not you caused it, or if it was just an underlying issue come to light, your daughter should not be waiting for therapy while her parents squabble about who pays her medical care. Be a damn parent. My 24 female, dad divorced mom when I was around 10. Growing up, he was rarely physically present for us. He did pay child support and helped us with education expenses, but it always looked like he was being the dad in our lives by using his money only and not actually being there for us. I sent him my wedding invitation and he said he will surely come. He only lives at 1 hour drive away from us. My mom made me ask him if he's willing to walk me down the aisle, and secretly, I wanted that too, but he politely refused, which was of course very hurtful, but I let it go, and one of my brothers volunteered for this. On the eve of the wedding, he called my mom to say that he can't come because his wife has fever. That was honestly my breaking point. It would be an acceptable excuse if she was actually really sick, but just down with fever, and he's ready to skip his only daughter's wedding. He asked my mom if he could talk to me since I wasn't picking up his calls, and mom refused because she was just as hurt. He sent cash as a gift on my wedding day, and I sent it back because accepting it would be a slap on my face, I think. I texted him that I'm not that little girl anymore, who he could make it up to by using money, and blocked him. I do not know if I overreacted, but I am beyond frustrated and hurt by his behavior. A few days later, he showed up at my house with a gift in kind this time, and it was expensive. He apologized for not showing up earlier. I was more angry at him again bringing gift than not coming to the wedding that I blew up. I told him he failed as a father, and he needs to stop trying to make up everything using his money. He got mad at me and told my husband, 29, to fix my attitude. My husband replied that it's not attitude, but resentment towards him for never being there for me. Now my dad is super mad at all of us and told my mom that he was trying to fix his relationship with me and wanted to be on good terms with my husband, and I let this situation escalate to the point where my husband sees him as a bad father. Now, he not only has a damaged relationship with his only daughter, but he is also disliked by his son-in-law. It seems to me that he is more concerned about what my husband thinks of him than me being upset because of him. My mom, who was not present there, believes I misbehaved with my dad and made my husband disrespect him. I do not know what to feel anymore. My mom thinks I am the one at fault this time, and I should have just accepted his apology and gift, and my dad is acting all hurt and upset. My husband thinks he does not deserve to stay in my life. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your father finally found a problem that he can't fix with money, and he's freaking out. Not the a-hole. I'm honestly confused on how you think you are in any way the a-hole here. Being a parent is a lot more than a financial obligation, and my jaw dropped just reading that after everything, he declined to walk you down the aisle, and then told your spouse to fix your attitude? Your husband did what any decent husband would do, which is have your back. You have done nothing wrong here. The onus is on your father to repair a relationship that he never took part in. Not the a-hole. He has been given chance after chance and failed. He is behaving this way because he always gets his way and doesn't think anything is wrong with his behavior. You and your husband called him out and aren't playing his game anymore. Cut him out of your life. He's toxic. Shut down your mother every time she brings it up. It's not her place. Let her know you won't be discussing your father anymore and stop being his flying monkey. My wife was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. She fought as hard as she could for as long as she could, but she sadly passed away 6 months ago. We never had kids, and both were very career-focused. After my wife's diagnosis, she wanted her parents to move in with us because they lived on the opposite coast of the U.S., and she wanted to spend as much time with them as possible. Our house had plenty of room for them, and I wanted to make my wife as happy as possible with the time she had left, so I agreed. Her parents are both retired, but they aren't exactly well off. We never asked them to help pay for anything while they lived with us. There was enough stress in our lives already, and none of us wanted to add the financial issues to that. They helped with groceries from time to time, but we never asked for more than that. Lately, I've been struggling a lot with my grief. I feel like a lot of it is connected to our house, and everything in it reminded me of my wife. I break down a lot over the tiniest stuff. My in-laws still live here, and as far as I know, they haven't made any arrangements for moving out. For the last month or so, I've been contemplating selling the house and pretty much starting over somewhere new to try and get away from so many triggers. I finally talked with a realtor a couple weeks ago, and I'm pretty much set on moving forward with selling the house. I brought it up with my in-laws over this past weekend, and it did not go well. They accused me of wanting to erase the life that my wife and I built here. They accused me of wanting them out of my life now that my wife is dead. They told me they have nowhere else to go, and I would basically be making them homeless. I can completely understand their anger and fear, but also, this isn't their house, nor their decision. I'm simply wanting to move on from my lowest point in my life. I do not want to erase anything that my wife and I built together, but I also don't think I can continue to live in this house. It's just too heartbreaking, and I don't like crying every time a memory gets triggered. I ended up telling them that they are free to stay here as long as it takes to sell the house, but I recommend that they start looking into making their own arrangements. Father-in-law asked if I would be willing to rent the house to them so that they don't have to find a new place, but when I told him what I would expect for monthly payments, he scoffed at it and called me out for trying to capitalize on their grief and that their daughter would have never wanted this. Neither of them is talking to me now, and there is definitely palpable conflict in the air. I don't like that it has come to this, but I'm making a decision based on what I think is best for me right now. I feel bad for the situation it puts my in-laws in, but I can't be responsible for their feelings in addition to my own right now. Not the a-hole. They weren't homeless before moving in. No reason they'll be homeless now. Not the a-hole. This right here. I'm sorry for in-laws, but you have to prioritize yourself first. You've offered them a fair time frame. They can stay until you sell the house. But as an attorney, I have to warn you that there might be a possibility that they'll refuse to leave, in which case you'll have to start eviction proceedings. I hope it doesn't come to that, especially since you're in the midst of so much grief and heartbreak. Just something to be aware of. Not the a-hole. You're not throwing them out tomorrow. You're telling them that they can't stay there, and you're selling the home. There's no erasing the life you had with your wife. You'll carry that the rest of your life. You're entitled to doing what is best for you. Also, how do they think they wouldn't have to pay something for rent? Sounds like they just thought they'd live with you for free forever because you're a nice person. I mean, their daughter died 6 months ago, and they never even considered leaving or setting up other housing arrangements. What, did they expect to live with you forever? That's nuts. Give them as much time as you are comfortable with. Sell the house and start over, like you said. Not the a-hole.